Hi everybody, I hope you're having a great day. In this video, I'm going to be covering Riddick. Now, Richard B. Riddick, who's portrayed by Vin Diesel, is the anti-hero protagonist of the Chronicles of Riddick franchise, which spans 3 major live-action films, including Pitch Black, that was released in 2000, The Chronicles of Riddick, that was released in 2004, and just Riddick, that was introduced in 2013, as well as an anime-influenced short named Dark Fury, motion comics like Pitch Black, Slam City, and Riddick, Blindsided, and also video games including the critically acclaimed Escape from Butcher Bay, its sequel Assault on Dark Athena, and the mobile stealth action titled Riddick, The Merc Files. So as you can see, our protagonist here has a storied history. Now, Riddick is a powerful and extreme survivalist Alpha-Furyan, with him standing 6 feet tall and weighing 225 pounds, having no hair and silver-tinted eyes with animal-like eyeshine, which we'll get into in a second. Matter of fact, although he was born on the devastated world of Furia, he's one of the last surviving Furians, which themselves were an extremely strong-willed warrior race that were nearly wiped out by the fanatical necromongers. And although it's alluded to that many of the Furians might have possessed at least a portion of Riddick's abilities, he himself is an Alpha-Furyan, as I said before, and therefore he naturally possesses low-level superhuman strength, speed, agility, stamina, slightly rapid healing, and a powerful quote-unquote Wrath of the Furians energy blast that was unlocked by the spirit guide named Shira. Riddick also possesses extremely well-honed hand-to-hand combat skills that blends Krav Maga, Hapkido, Eskrima, and Ninjutsu, making him lethal even without weapons. But let's be honest, his most characteristic trait is his eyeshine, which is a permanent night vision that was supposedly acquired via a surgical shine job in exchange for a couple of menthols. And this ability gives him extremely sensitive sight in complete darkness, while conversely making him highly sensitive to normal light, necessitating his signature welding goggles. Now, Riddick's story begins on the planet Furia, where a prophecy foretelling the downfall of the necromonger Lord Marshal Xylar led to a genocidal campaign against male infants. Riddick narrowly survived being strangled at birth and left for dead, only to be rescued, though the identity of his savior remains unknown. His memories of this massacre were repressed, replaced by a false narrative of maternal betrayal, until visions of a Furian seer named Shira began to resurface in adulthood. Now, his very first appearance in the film Pitch Black introduced him as a notorious convict, with his iconic surgically implied eyeshine. We first see him being transported to a prison colony when his transport ship crashes on a planet with 3 suns. Being forced to survive alongside other crash survivors against nocturnal predators called bioraptors, he ultimately emerges as both savior and survivor, alongside a young girl named Jack and a man simply known by his title, Imam. Now, the next time period we see him is in the short 35-minute animated film Dark Fury, which bridges the gap between Pitch Black and the other live-action movie called The Chronicles of Riddick. Here, we see that immediately after escaping this doomed planet, Riddick, Jack, and Imam are captured by Antonia Chillingsworth, who freezes notorious criminals as living art. Riddick's resourcefulness and combat prowess allow the trio to fight through her menagerie of human and alien guards, ultimately delivering Jack and Imam to New Mecca before he himself heads into hiding on UV6. Now, next on the list, in The Chronicles of Riddick, 5 years later, Riddick lives in exile on the ultraviolet baked planet UV6. When the necromonger invasion threatens Helion Prime, Imam betrays Riddick's location, but only because he seeks his help against this major threat. But after Imam's death and a series of other dramatic events, Riddick would defeat the necromonger Lord Marshal, inheriting the necromonger throne, seeing as how their motto is keep what you kill. Therefore, he's briefly hailed as their new leader, although he would later abandon the role to seek his homeworld. Now, in the latest movie installment, simply known as the self-titled Riddick, we see him stranded on a desolate planet and targeted by mercenaries arriving under the cover of a deadly storm. Once again, here Riddick must rely on his survival instincts. As usual, he outwits and overpowers his pursuers, And when faced with betrayal and potential death, he forms a temporary alliance with his old adversary, Johns, who ultimately saves him, which itself underscores Riddick's complex moral code and grudging respect for worthy opponents. Now, within motion comics and graphic novels, we'd first see him in Pitch Black's Slam City, and this would be a Shockwave-released motion comic presenting official prison records of Riddick's 11-hour, 22-minute escape from Ursa Luna's Slam City facility, including his eyeshine surgery paid for with a pack of cools. Now, in the next installment, named Riddick Blindsided, a one-shot motion comic bridged the Chronicles of Riddick and Riddick, featuring storyboarded scenes omitted from the theatrical cut. This installment explores Riddick's uneasy position as Necromonger Lord Marshal prior to his exile. And of course, other than these watchable forms of media, as I stated earlier, he also had various video game adaptations, which were all received with a reasonable amount of applause. Now, beyond his titular series, Riddick has also cameoed in games like Fallout Tactics, Brotherhood of Steel, and Death Row, and has been parodied in Death Skid Marks. These crossovers underscore his status as a pop culture anti-hero whose dark charm and survivalist ethos resonates across genres. Therefore, for his powers and abilities, and his influence not only on the Pitch Black franchise, but on pop culture in general, for my 1 to 10 rating, I'll give Riddick a rating of 10, which is a legendary rating. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. I'll talk to you next time. Be sure to like and subscribe to The New Sage.